What even is a dream game? If you had the power to make any game you ever wanted with the snap of your finger, what kind of game would you make? These questions have been on my mind for years. The amount of late night conversations I've had, discussing all the things, going over every system that might be in this hypothetical dream game, I have thought a ton about this. I think naturally, dream game ideas come from your interests as a person, combined with the exposure you've had to different types of games and genres. The ones that really connect with you, stay with you. For me, it only took a couple. So today, I wanted to go into what a dream game means for me, and how I'm taking the best parts of my two biggest inspirations and getting one step closer to finding out what a dream game could look like in my vision. If I had to say in one word what would represent what I look for in games from all genres, that word would be progression. So, it should come as no surprise that my two biggest inspirations are heavily progression-based games. And those two games are MapleStory and Black Desert Online. A lot of games have different ways they go about progression, but the core concepts usually hold true for games in general. Progression in these games usually ties into two buckets, and those two buckets are vertical and horizontal progression. Vertical progression usually ties into the main treadmill of obtaining power in the game. This could be through gear, unlocking new skills, new items, but it all becomes a form of direct power. Horizontal progression is usually things not tied to the main power treadmill, but often give rewards and other things through side content that the player may deem valuable or fun. Games usually have a semi-hard split between the two, not really integrating them together. Something about horizontal progression not contributing to the power of my character felt kind of off. So I asked myself at the beginning of the development of my game, why can't I just do both, but better? Content-wise, horizontal progression could be fun. So I decided there's rules about progression in my game, using those games as the building blocks for my own. The first rule is every core system must have reason. Each of these games has a core reason to progress. In Black Desert Online, a majority of my reason for playing was to get better at my class, hone my craft, and defeat other people. PvP was the main driving force behind my reason. It has what I'd like to call a multifaceted treadmill, where improving your gear doesn't unlock new content directly, but instead enhances how efficiently you can engage with everything already available. Almost all content is technically accessible from the start, but progression lets you perform better, grind more efficiently, compete more effectively, and take on players or challenges you couldn't handle before. In MapleStory, PvP isn't a thing. This has a more direct treadmill for content and progression. The fun comes from pushing up the gear mountain, which, in my opinion, is one of the most satisfying to climb. And the farther you climb up this mountain of power, you unlock new content in the form of bosses and grind areas that you couldn't enter before. Both of these games do a good job implementing rule number 2, visibility. If any of these games told you to go do random things for 5,000 hours to get the highest possible power, and you'd have no idea what you'd even do once you got there, I don't think you'd have fun. Visibility fixes this issue by letting the player see beforehand a small glimpse of what is to come if they progress through the game. Now, these aren't perfect games, so for rule number 3, I have to be careful of the faults. Every game has their faults, and these are no different. Faults are usually the reason why players stop playing a game entirely. Whether it's terrible monetization, a huge laundry list of dailies and alt characters, faults add up. There is a ton of work to do, as the game is still in its infancy stage, but I do have a good amount of systems already built out. I'm going to rapid fire a bunch of them off. Ready? A dynamic quest system with multi-step tasks, custom rewards per task, NPC interactions, and more. A day-night cycle with dynamic weather effects. A modular combat system allowing me to create new skills easily. Modular enemies that can reuse each other's attacks. A bunch of different progression systems, including gems, gem passives, skill points, gear enhancements, and more. Dynamic enemy leveling based on zones. Dynamic loot based on zones. A full functioning Black Desert style cooking system. Crafting systems with RNG elements. Dynamic gathering systems with dynamic rarity tier spawns that's also modular. Yeah, you get the point. The next big hurdle is art. As I commission art quite often, I realize that the amount of output I currently have relative to the vision I want for my game, it's going to require me to get creative and start trying to make some of it myself. You're probably wondering why I haven't already, but let's just say, as I currently am, my artistry skills are lackluster, to say the least. I've always liked the look of pixel art. I think it gives a ton of character to games, so at least learning how to make simple drawings and foliage to add life to the scenes, I think is going to be a good investment in the long-term look for my game. Eventually, I'd like to get to the point where I can make large-scale scene objects that are unique and location-specific instead of everywhere in the game being a bit similar. Soon I plan on making the first major city and start planning out what the beginning of the adventure looks like for players. The good news is, with all these systems already built, adding new content should only get faster as time goes on. If you're interested in keeping up with the development and made it this far into the video, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.